MovieWeb.com.
Sam, I was paged last night. Page came from your dad's office at the arcade.
Alan, you're acting like I'm gonna find him sitting there working. Where am I?
He's different. Your father was the creator. He never thought he'd see you again.
Dad. Sam. Long time. You have no idea.
The Grid, a place of infinite possibility.
It's incredible.
More beautiful than I ever dreamed. And more dangerous than I ever imagined.
So I want to begin by asking both of you guys, so when Eddie and Adam put together the pitch, obviously a huge part of it is Jeff Bridges, you can't really make this movie, the movie you made, without Jeff Bridges' involvement.
Right.
So can you talk about the importance of getting Jeff involved and bringing him back into the
Yeah,
fold?
I mean, he's integral, that character, Kevin Flynn, was integral to the first movie and an important part of our film. I mean, Jeff was really the first person we went to once we started working on it. We didn't have a script then. Just had an idea of the kind of overall narrative arc we were interested in, and Jeff was interested in, the story of his character, and I think he was really intrigued by the possibility of playing two characters in this film, and the technology, and Jeff's always been interested in pushing the envelope, and we're real lucky to get him to sign on for even that first test.
They talked a lot about a son's search for his missing father, and this idea of Jeff versus Jeff. Those very early meetings, both which ideas were very exciting to both Joe and to me.
Sam. Long time. You have no idea. You're here. You're here. I'm here.
Because I talked to the writers, Adam and Eddie, a few times, and they mentioned that initially they had gone to your home and sort of pitched you the initial idea for this film. You haven't done a lot of sequels in your career, so I was just curious, what did you think of the initial idea and sort of reprising this role and returning to this world?
I was very excited about the notion, and I'm really glad that Disney held off as long as they did until they got the right director and the right story in place. And I was thrilled with Joe Kosinski, our director, coming from architecture. He's an architect, and so the design of the film is really terrific. This world of the Grid is really fully realized, and also it was an opportunity to tell a modern day myth about technology and how we might navigate these challenging waters we find ourselves in now, where if we want something, we can get it quick. We better be careful what you wish for, what you want.
It was so fascinating to watch Jeff work because he brings a certain amount of levity to everything. He's always having fun no matter what the scene is. He doesn't ever take himself too seriously, but he's very professional, and he really wants to make the character and the movie and the story feel real, and he just, I don't know, he brings so much focus to it, but at the same time just such a sense of fun. So that was great. It was a great lesson for me and Garrett, who were like puppies learning everything from Jeff all the time. And I just felt so lucky to spend every single day with Jeff for about 4 months. I learned a lot.
I'm Castor, your host, provider of any and all entertainments and diversions at your service.
I'm looking for zoos.
Indeed, many are.
Where can I find them?
This, prettiness, is a conversation best had behind closed doors. Perhaps we should retire to my private lounge.
Your character seemed like Ziggy Stardust to me. Was there a David Bowie sort of
yeah, well, I
thing
think
going on?
Bowie was someone who still is someone who kind of reinvented himself and survived through adapting and assimilating everything in the popular culture around him, and played with identities and personas. And I thought that was very much in keeping with this character. So I thought that would be a good kind of reference point for him. So there's a bit of Ziggy in there.
And then your character is sort of kind of reminded me of Barbarella a little bit. You know, she's got that kind of thing going on. Well, tell me about sort of the costume and how that helped you get into the character.
Well, I was. It was such a process to put that costume on, and I think that once it was the final zip happened after 6 hours, I was completely immersed in Jem and how she'd move and function within the city, and I don't think up until that point I knew, and it was so helpful to have the suit be as it was.
Did you say 6 hours?
Yes.
To get into the costume?
Sometimes we get it down to like 5. It depended on how good, how sharp we were feeling that day and how much I really wanted to get in it.
You play Jarvis, who's Clue's sort of right-hand man, kind of almost like a circus barker he seemed like in some of the game scenes. What was it like creating that character and then working with a young version of Jeff Bridges? I mean, that technically, how did that work out?
Well, I'm really clueless to his clue. I'm the yin to his yang. I think he needs my uselessness and my absurdity to vent his frustration on, and I need his ambition and his cruelty. So it's a sort of a marriage. To do the motion capture, what they did was we would shoot the film one time. We'd shoot every scene with the body double for Jeff. At around the same kind of age that he was supposed to be, and then we'd shoot it again with Jeff now with motion capture cameras and this spotted, technology that records your facial movements. And so we would imagine that but the character, as it turns out, we don't see until the movie came out, now. But it was the performance of Clue, the performance of this sinister, ruthless man. And it turns out insecure man was all brought into the scene by Jeff.
And you have a scene where you get to be the young Tron version of yourself. What was it like to do that?
It's very interesting to watch because I had to do the motion capture thing too in a sphere, this big lit sphere where they had 20, 30 cameras on every aspect of your face, and I had to do all kinds of facial expressions, and they were all being captured, and they did. I thought they gave me a great haircut.
I'm Cora!
They're turning around.
Not by choice. Their vehicles aren't designed to go off-grid. They'll malfunction on this terrain.
What about us?
Obviously not.
So I wanted to begin, it's kind of hard to talk to you about your character Cora because I don't want to give anything away about her in the film, but she has a very close relationship with the Flynn men.
Yes.
Could you talk about her relationship with Kevin and then how she feels about Sam when he comes into the grid?
Yes, so Cora has been in exile with Kevin Flynn for over 200 years. That's what 20 years is in Tron time. And during that time, she's become an apprentice, and she's also become his protector. She's sort of his eyes and ears on the grid. She can go out unseen, and she's able to escape the grid without being captured because she has the only off-road vehicle on the grid, my light buggy, coolest thing on the grid, no big deal. But I think that it's really kind of fun to see Cora interact with Flynn because she's learned everything she knows from him. She's very fascinated with user culture, user history, and literature, and Flynn has told her stories, has given her an entire library so that she can learn. But even though she learns everything, she still doesn't really have an accurate sense of time-space continuum. And so when it comes to knowing which authors are alive in user world, she thinks everyone sort of exists all the time, which is why she asks Sam if he knows Jules Verne. So I love her dearly. I think she's a really powerful and really endearing character.
And then in the film, I mean, you really get to play the hero and the villain, and you're, in some scenes, acting opposite a 30-year younger version of yourself. Tell me about what that was like, and technically, and that must be exciting to do.
And you don't really see the results until the whole thing is put together, because the effect is really a post-production deal. So you know, so you're working on the scene, and I'm working on just do a little dot, or you know, sometimes I work to another actor, but I'm thinking, you know, okay, you guys, let's see, you know, you got to show me the money here, how it's going to turn out at the, you know, when it's all polished up, you know, let's see what it's like. So I had to be patient, you know.
And now that you've seen it, are you pleased with the final?
Yeah, it's really an interesting feeling. It's a bit like, do you remember the first time you heard your voice on a tape recorder and you said, that's what I sound like? It's interesting. Because the final product is really a interpretation of other artists saying, this is what Jeff, you know, looks like. So it makes it just off enough to work.